Well, hey everyone, it's Andrew Breault, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at how to create a trifold brochure in Publisher. This will probably be a several part series just because we are going to do kind of like step by step what I would do creating a brochure inside of Publisher. So before we jump into Publisher and actually start setting up our document, so instead of just coming over here and you could choose a brochure right here, but we're actually going to save ourselves a lot of trouble in the end by just choosing a blank document. But before we even begin, what we want to do is we want to know a little bit more about the brochure and what it's going to look like once we're all done. So with that in mind, let's take a look at some really common trifold brochures and make some decisions about how we're going to set this one up. So the first thing we want to talk about is full bleed, or what a lot of people might call edge-to-edge printing. So a lot of brochures are designed like this one here, where the color in the background runs all the way to the edge of the page. Now, it's really cool that it runs all the way to the edge of the page, but this is also a bit difficult because it's not something that you can just print on your home printer. That doing an edge to edge on an 8.5 by 11 usually is something that needs to be done on a digital press or something a little bit larger than what you're going to have in your house. Now, since I work in a print shop environment, I can do stuff like that. But most printers are not going to actually print all the way up to the edge of the page. So when you see brochures that are printed to the edge, usually they're printed 2 up on a 13 by 19 sheet of paper, and then the color in the background actually runs out an extra 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch, and it gets trimmed down to size in the end, so it looks like it was printed all the way to the edge, but in reality it was actually overprinted and then cut down to size. I hope that makes sense. So the next type, of course, is no bleed, and that's where your page is going to have white borders. So you can kind of see this gray line here that represents the border of the page for this setup, and as you can see, there's no color and there's no elements that run all the way to the outside. So that would be a no bleed brochure, and that's actually what we're going to take a look at setting up today. That way anybody following along would have the ability to print their brochure. But we will, in a future video, I will show how to design so that it's, you're designing it a little bit oversized, and I'll show you some cheats that I use to be able to do that, even though I don't have a digital press, so I'm not able to do 2 up on 13 by 19 and all that kind of crazy stuff. But I will show you a workaround that you can do pretty much on any printer capable of printing 11 by 17. So this would be like your big office printers and things like that. All right, so also probably the most common fold is a C fold, and this is where the front cover, as you can see here, is printed in a way that when you open this flap, the other one is, or I guess the back of it, you could say, is like tucked inside. So if you look at it, it kind of does this, and then it kind of folds in. So that's why it's called a C fold. And it goes inside of there. All right, so it's one paper folded in thirds, but then the front cover kind of folds over top of the back. Also the most common type of brochure out there. Now, something that's a little bit less common is a Z fold. Kind of cool if you're looking to do something that's a little bit different. It kind of like accordions on top of itself, but if you're looking at it from the side, notice that you kind of get a Z on the page. And the setup for this is quite a bit different, because on a C fold brochure, the front of your brochure and the back are actually on the same side of the page. This will make more sense as we get into our setup. So they're actually they're like panels that are right next to each other, is the front and the back of your brochure. And inside of a Z fold, your front and your back are on separate sheets. So once again, we'll be taking a look at that as we get further in. All right, let me see here. Did we have something else? Oh yeah, I did have one other slide here, and that is there are also custom sized brochures that you can do. So this one right here, I'm not exactly sure what the size was, but I'm going to guess it was like an 8x8. So each panel basically makes a square when it is all done, but you're also printing on a much longer piece of paper, and then this one of course was printed full bleed, and then it can be folded, each piece folded over on top of itself. So this would probably fold in, and then this piece would fold over the top, and you've got yourself a custom size. So that's another thing that you can do with your brochures. So with all of that in mind, let's go ahead and look at what we would do inside of Microsoft Publisher to set up for the most common type of brochure. So let's jump back over here into Publisher. Here we go. And we're going to go ahead and set up the most common type, which is an 8.5 by 11 without any bleed. So I'm going to go ahead and pick just a blank 11 by 8.5. So we're kind of doing this horizontal 8.5 by 11. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to the Page Design tab, and I am going to put the margins down to 0.25, because most printers, not all, but most printers are not capable of printing within 1/4 inch of the edge of your sheet. So we're going to design this with the idea that there's 1/4 inch all the way around the edge that is not going to be printed on. Now, brochures also, let's actually jump back over here, and we're going to step back. It's not exactly 1/3 of a page, so we do like to call it a trifold brochure, a third fold brochure, but in all reality, the front cover panel is actually the longest, well, maybe not the longest, but it is a little bit longer from this fold to the end. It's longer than the back panel, this one right here, from its fold to the end. And the reason is because you need a little bit of space right here. You can't really see it in this picture, but this fold, it stops right about here. And if you take a piece of paper and you fold it exactly into thirds, and you fold it on top of itself, if you get it too close to the edge, you'll actually end up crinkling the pages. And since, especially if you're printing hundreds of brochures, you're going to be sending them through an automatic folding machine. You're not going to sit there and fold them by hand. It can be really tricky if your fold is not set up properly. It's just going to crinkle all of your pages if you don't make this flap a little bit shorter. So that's what we're going to need to do when we come over here to our publication. We could just divide the page into exact thirds, and that's how we're going to start out. But once the design is all done, we're going to need to move things, shift things around just a little bit with those margins. So we'll take a look at that now. So the first thing we're going to want to do is divide the page into thirds. I'm going to go ahead and go over here to Guides, and I'm going to click on Ruler Guides. We're going to click on Vertical, and the first thing we're going to set here is 3.66 inches. We'll set that one. And the second one is at 7.32. And we'll set that one and then say OK. And now what we've done is we've divided this page exactly into thirds. So with that in mind, this little portion over here is actually going to be the front cover of the brochure. So I'm just going to take this line, and I'm actually going to move it down here to I guess about 7 1/4. And now I'm going to drag some more guides just by clicking on the ruler here on the left, and I'm going to drag this out, and I'm going to go ahead and put a guide on 1/4 of an inch away from that center. So this one right here becomes the fold line, and then this one becomes our title safe, picture safe, you know, just to kind of give us that idea that there's going to be a white border all the way around the cover. So once this thing is folded, this is the front cover, and all you're going to see is just, you know, your information here and then the white border all the way around. Same thing over here. We're going to just move this slightly to the left, I guess, right about there. And then I'm just eyeballing these because we're going to be able to move our design around a little bit in the end here. And we're just going to go ahead and drop another one, I guess, right about there. So that just gives us some safe zones of where we can create. Alright, so let's go ahead and start dumping some content onto here. I actually downloaded a sample print that we're going to be taking a look at here in just a moment. Alright, so let's go ahead and start setting up this particular brochure. So what I did is I jumped out to Google Images and I found a brochure that I kind of liked the concept behind the way it was set up, and I thought, hey, this would be a fun one to kind of try to recreate. So I'm going to do my best to take and recreate this entire brochure for you. So as you can see, this over here is the front panel, and then this is actually the back panel. So as I was saying, in a trifold, these two panels are actually side by side. And then of course we have the inside flap, so this gets folded on the inside and that over top of it. And then if you flip this page, you have 3 more panels of information that you can stick in if you want to. And then what I think we're going to do is instead of just doing 3 panels, we're going to do 1 panel that is like this size here, and then we're going to stretch content across 2 more panels just to do something for fun that you can see is a little bit different. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started, and I'll show you how I would go about setting this up in Publisher. Now, it's not going to be exact because, as you can see, this one does actually have some edge-to-edge printing or full bleed print on it, so we're going to actually need to put some space all the way around ours. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to actually need to find ourselves an image that we can use that's, you know, maybe get something similar to this one. So a place that I like to go to get that is called pexels.com. I'm going to jump out there real quick, and we can just go here in our search box here. Let's do hiking, and let's see if we've got. Hey, look at that. We've got some pictures of people hiking. Okay, so what's a good one here? Let's just kind of flip through here real quick. Let's see what we got. I actually kind of like this one right here. So we'll click on it and we'll do the free download. All right. And now we're going to come back over here, and so we're going to be trying to fill this entire panel with that picture. So we're going to go to the Insert tab, Picture, and then my downloads always end up over here. So we're going to go ahead and drop that in place. Now what we can do is go ahead and stretch this picture all the way out until it hits that bottom line. And now if we right-click on it, we can use the Crop tool. And we're going to go ahead and crop this in till we hit the blue line there. Obviously this is not going to be exact, but it will work for our purposes. And we'll go ahead and set that one there. Let's back that up just a little bit. And then we can kind of move the picture around on the inside of our crop if we want to. I'm actually going to move his backpack a little bit more off screen, so now he's just kind of like looking out that way. If we totally click off the picture, we'll see that what we're left with is just what would be that front panel. And if we click on the image just a single time, it'll highlight, you know, all around the edges. You'll get like the little marks. We can see you can make it larger, smaller, all that kind of stuff. And we can use our arrow keys and bump it left or right. That's going to come in handy later on, so remember how to do that. Alright, so let's jump on back over to our brochure and take a look. We have like kind of a text box area down here. This is travel zone, and then we also have like for the best moments of your life right here. So let's go ahead and see what we would do with that. So for this, we can go up here to the Shapes tool, and we'll go ahead and grab ourselves a rectangle, and we're just going to put that like right about here. And I'm going to take the outline off, say no outline, and we'll go ahead and go into the shape fill, and they had kind of like an orangish color, so we'll do that for now. It was also a little bit transparent, so if we wanted to add that, we could just right click on the shape and then go down to Format Auto Shape, and from here we can go up to the transparency. Right now it's set to 0, and we can kind of start to add some transparency to it. So it's not happening very quickly, so let's jump to actually let's just go ahead and set it an even 50% transparent and say OK. And now we can kind of see the picture and the transparency through it. It's not quite as dark as I would like it to look, so let's go ahead and jump back inside of there. Instead of saying 50, let's go with like 25% transparent. There we go. That looks even a little bit better. Now we can, at any point in time, we can come in here and we can change how big or small or where that shape is at, and it'll move just fine. Now what I would do is I would put a text box over top of this. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the Insert tab, and we will jump over to the Draw Text Box, and we'll go ahead and draw a text box inside of here. And we're going to change our font to something a little bit more bold. And for that I like to use this Arial black, but we're not going to do it in black. We're going to do the letters in white. And then let's just see here, for the best moments of your life. And was it all caps? Should have been paying more attention. It is all caps. So we could highlight this, and then over here on the Home tab, is it? We can change it to all caps, and then we can also play with the size of each word. And then for some crazy reason, whenever you make a text box and you start putting in text, for some reason the paragraph settings are a little bit weird. So I like to come up here to the paragraph underneath the Home tab and click on this, and where it says after paragraph, I always set this to 0. And I'll set my spacing to 1. Say OK, and now you'll see it just kind of bumps all of that down. So now with everything highlighted, we can actually bump everything up by the same amount of font size at the same time. Then we'll go ahead and bump this up. There we go, until it's almost perfectly in line with there. There we go, and we'll bump this one up as well. There we go. Okay, so that's at 24. It's 22. Let's try 23. Hey, there we go. And if we grab a hold of all of that text, we can actually go over here to the text box tools format tab, and we can tell it to center align it right in the center of this text box. So we're not doing exactly what was on the sample, but at least we're getting something that looks fairly similar to it, and we're kind of making it ours. There's also a drop shadow in there that kind of makes the letters look like they're popping off the page a little bit. So we can go over here under the text box tools formatting tab, and we can add some kind of word art styles. So let's go ahead and select the text, and we can go up to the text effects, and we could do a bevel to it, or we could do a drop shadow. I think I want to work with a drop shadow. So let's go ahead and go with that right there and kind of take a look. I really like that. It makes the letters kind of pop a little bit off the page, and that looks pretty good. So we can use the same techniques that we used for these two boxes to, put in this travel zone logo and stuff like that. So I'm not going to do that in this tutorial. I'll probably do that off camera. We'll come back a little bit later and talk about that. So in part 2, we're going to take a look at putting in the back of the brochure, and then I'm also going to show you how I would go about setting up this little photo grid with these cool just little word blurbs that they have on here. I'll show you how I'd go about doing that. Alright, so I will see you guys in the next tutorial. If you're not already, make sure you subscribe to the channel for more tutorials like this one. Also, if you have any questions, make sure you drop down to the comment section below and leave those for me. I usually respond within 2 to 3 days. And if you like, you can come connect with me over on these social media channels. I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.